Hi everyone. So today we are going to start our journey into getting to know those symbols a little bit further. We're going to get familiar with them. We're going to understand how they work, why they are organized in this way, in this sequence, how to pronounce them. So there's some things we need to know before starting. The English Phonemic System, Part 1. Introduction to the IPA chart, consonants, vowels, and semi-vowels. Something we learned so far is that spelling, writing, is not able to grasp the way we speak, to register the way we speak. And this is why we use phones and phonemes as representations of how the sound should be produced. If you remember, linguistics as a science was founded in the beginning of the 20th century. But some decades before, in 1886, there were some people already worried about this representation. They thought it could make learning much more meaningful if you could use the same symbol to represent the same sound across different languages. All in all, if you know what the sound is, you could pronounce whichever sound in whichever language you wanted to. So this is why in 1886, the International Phonetic Association was founded. Language scholars all over the world got together in order to find a way of representing sounds or phones. So they created what we understand to be the International Phonetic Alphabet. Basically, if you get familiar with the International Phonetic Alphabet, you too can pronounce whichever sound in any language. So the first thing they did was, how are we going to represent these sounds? First, we need to know how they are made. And they thought, well, there are at least two different sorts of sounds. We have consonant sounds, we have vowel sounds. How are we going to organize them? So consonants and vowels, they're different because the way they are produced by our vocal tract is different. So think of your vocal tract as having three different systems, three different parts. This is your glottis here, right? So you have the glottal system, you have the supraglottal system, so everything that happens in the oral cavity or the nasal cavity is within the supraglottal system. And you have the subglottal system. So you have your lungs, you have your trachea, right? So whenever you are speaking, if you're going to produce a vowel, what happens is that the airflow that is expelled out of your trachea, once it gets to your supraglottal system, so after it passes through your vocal folds, there is no obstruction. A, E, O, there is no obstruction. And what that means is that the articulators, the organs within your oral cavity are not touching each other. So air can just flow smoothly and continuously with no obstruction. Now, whenever you're producing a consonant sound, once the air gets out of your larynx, your glottis, what happens is that two articulators will touch each other and they will somehow provide for an obstruction. So, for example, whenever you produce the P sound, what you have is that your bottom lip touches your upper lip, producing a total obstruction. So this is what they did. They created charts to represent these sounds. You see, we have one chart for the consonants. There is a different chart here for the vowels. And progressively, we will understand why they are separated. Vowels and consonants are produced in a different way. What these charts do is they organize the sounds, the phones that could be produced in any human language. Now, the number of sounds that each language will use in its inventory, in its system, varies a lot. So there are some sounds here that exist in Portuguese but do not exist in English. There are some sounds that exist in English but do not exist in Portuguese or French. So this is why whenever you want to study a specific language, you need phonology. because you need to understand which of these sounds actually belong to that language and whether they are phones, they are allophones, or they are phonemes of that language. So, all in all, vowels are sounds in which the air flows with vowels are sounds or phones in which the air flows with no obstruction through the supraglottal system, cavities, right? Whereas consonants are sounds in which the air flows with some sort of obstruction. It could be a total obstruction or a partial obstruction through the supraglottal cavities. So this is the basic difference between consonants and vowels. If you take a look here at the consonants chart, it is organized exactly as the way we saw consonants are classified. How are consonants classified? Whenever we classify consonants, we take three factors into consideration: voicing, place of articulation, and manner of articulation. What does that mean? Whenever you produce the sound, you need to analyze whether there is vibration in your vocal folds or not. So for example, you could have this sound here in which it's voiceless. There is no vibration. Now, whenever it gets to the oral cavity or the nasal cavity, there will be some sort of obstruction. There will be two articulators touching each other or approaching each other. Now, there are two questions you need to ask yourself. Where does the obstruction occur? Which articulators are involved? And how do they approach each other? So for example, if you have a labial dental obstruction, what does that mean? It means that your bottom lip will touch your upper teeth, like this. Whenever we're talking about place of articulation, we're just talking about where the obstruction occurs. The manner of articulation is how it occurs. It's like they're touching each other very fast. They're like touching each other continuously, right? So it could be, for example, fricative. What happens in fricative sounds is that the articulators will touch each other continuously and air can still escape. Different from plosive sounds, in which you will close your mouth like and it somehow explodes. So for example, if you have a voiceless sound that is labial-dental and it's fricative, labial-dental, fricative, and voiceless, you will have the f sound. It's voiceless, it's labial-dental, and it's fricative. Now, if you have a voiced sound that is labial-dental and fricative, take a look. These two sounds are the same sounds except for the voicing factor. The place is the same and the manner is the same. So, as we've seen, the International Phonetic Alphabet, the IPA, organizes all the possible sounds in the human languages, and it separates consonants and vowels. Now, today we're going to be talking about the English consonants. Let's understand a little bit better how it works. Whenever you start studying English, one of the first things you study is the indefinite articles, a and an. And then you will have a word, for example, such as pen. Do I have to say a pen or an pen? And you should remember that your teacher probably said something like, you should say a pen, because the first sound here, the first sound of this word is a consonant sound. Okay, no problem. So if you have the word engineer, the first sound is a vowel sound. So you should say an engineer. So if you have apple, should you say a apple or an apple? You will say an apple because the first sound is a vowel sound, a, right? Now if you have computer, you'll say a computer because the first sound is a consonant sound, k, computer. Now, what many students confuse is the difference between sounds and letters. Take a look. If you have this word here, MP3 player, should I say a MP3 player or an MP3 player? Students who confuse sounds and letter will say we should say a MP3 player because the first letter is a consonant. but we should think of sounds. Whenever we're talking about vowels and consonants, we are talking about phonetics and phonology concepts. So whenever you produce this word here, whenever you say this word, what is the first sound you have here? Take a look. You have an MP3. You see? We are representing this word using phonemic symbols. I don't understand it yet. This is what we're going to learn. But take a look. The first sound is A. So should I say an MP3 player or a MP3 player? We should say an MP3 player because the first sound is a vowel. So this is not an exception. Some students thought, oh, this is an exception. No, this is the rule. Whenever the first sound is a vowel sound, you will use the article an. Now, we have some special cases to analyze here. Take a look at this word. University. University. Should we say an university or a university? Whenever you learn the rule, if you confuse sounds and letters, you will probably say, of course, it's an university because the first letter is U. But we should look at the sound. What is the first sound of this word here? The first sound of this word is Y. Y. University. University. This is the same sound we use when we say, this is the same sound we use when we say yes. What is the first sound? Y. Y. And how do you represent this? Using this symbol here. Okay? Y. Y. Of course, if the first sound was U, university, of course you would say an university. But the first sound is not U, it's Y. University. Now the question is Y, Y a vowel sound or a consonant sound? We need to analyze this. Take a look. What is the difference between these two words here? This is an air. Air. What's the first sound? Air. An air. Now, what's the difference between this word and this word here? Happy New. Many people will pronounce these words as if they were interchangeable, as if they were the same way. And actually, this word is pronounced year. Year. Happy New Year. What? Yes. So these words here are different just because of this sound here. All right? So be careful not to say that you were 20 years old because you were 20 years old. Other examples are yes and yellow. Now, should it be treated as a vowel or a consonant? Then we need phonology to explain that. Phonology looks at how the sound behaves within a specific language. So, yeah in English, is it a vowel or a consonant? Some people could say it looks as a vowel because if you stretch the sound, yeah, let's stretch it. If you stretch it, it looks as though you're making two vowels, but you're making it very fast. Yeah, right? Yeah. But this sound is normally treated as a consonant in English. And why is that? If you analyze this word here, yes, and these other words here, mass, chas, jazz, less, let's analyze their phonemic transcriptions. You have here yes, you have mass, you have chess, you have jazz, you have less. So you see that all of them are equal except for one tiny sound. So all of them are minimal pairs. So the only difference here is the phoneme la. The only difference here is the phoneme ja. The only difference here, cha. And here, ma. So when you look at these minimal pairs, nobody would ask, nobody would doubt that all of these sounds here in English, they are phonemes and they should be treated as consonants because of the way they behave. In all of them, you have a consonant and then you have a vowel. A consonant, a vowel. A consonant, a vowel. So why would this one here be treated as a vowel if it behaves as a consonant? So, ya is a minimal pair, and in English, this sound is treated as a consonant sound. This is confusing for some people because in order for you to produce the sound ya, it behaves as a vowel sound. But in the English language, it works as a consonant. This also happens with this word here. How do you say this in English? Waiter. And this? One. One. So you have here waiter and one. Okay? One. So what is the first sound of this word here? The first sound is what. What. And the first sound here is what as well. So you see, it looks as a vowel. It looks as two vowels in a sequence. Wa. But it is made very fast. Wa. Wa. And in English, it's treated as a consonant because you will say a waiter, a university as well. So these are not exceptions, like university is an exception to the rule, MP3 is an exception to the rule. No, this is the rule. Whenever you have a vowel sound, you should use N before it. Whenever you have a consonant sound, you should use A before it. In English, ya and wa are treated as consonants. So basically, we have three types of sounds. We have vowels, no obstruction. We have consonants, some sort of obstruction, and we have what we call semi-vowels. They are phonetically similar to vowels, but phonologically treated as consonants in English, right? In other languages, it could be different. And what are those in English? The ya phoneme and the wa phoneme. Part 2. English consonants in the IPA. So a simpler version of the IPA for English would be built up like this. Take a look. We have a chart in which you have the place of articulation, so where the obstruction occurs and in which articulators are involved, and the manner, how they approach each other. So you see that the place of articulation, it starts here in your lips, and it goes all the way through your glottis. It goes in order, physiological order. So take a look. Bilabial, what happens? You have both lips touching each other. The bottom lip is the active articulator. It touches your upper lip. Labiodental, you have your bottom lip touching your upper teeth, like this. Dental, you have the blade of your tongue touching your upper teeth, like this. Alveolar, you have the blade of your tongue touching the alveolar ridge. Post-alveolar, so you have the alveolar ridge in your tongue, and then the post-alveolar would be the region immediately after it in your hard palate. Not in the middle, immediately after the alveolar ridge. Palatal, you will have the front part of the tongue touching your hard palate or approaching your hard palate. Velar, you will have the back of your tongue approaching the soft palate, the velum. And glottal, the only thing that happens is that your vocal folds will approach slightly, but not very much. An example of sound that happens in the glottis is the sound, such as in house, house. It looks as a vowel because there is no obstruction here, but it's not a vowel because it behaves as a consonant in English. Okay, so this is where the obstruction occurs, but how it occurs. Let's take a look at if the obstruction is a plosive one. What happens is that it will try to expel the air, but there will be a total obstruction. Your mouth will get closed. And then the air will move out suddenly, as if there was an explosion. This is why we call it plosive. So we have like p, b, p, b. They are bilabial. And here you'll see that we'll always put the pair together, the voiceless sound and the voiced sound. P, b. This is how you represent these phones, which are also phonemes in English, right? And then you will have t, duh, they're also plosive. but where does that happen? In the alveolar ridge. And then you will have k and g. Same thing, but in the soft palate, right? So pa, ba, ta, da, ka, ga. Ta, da are the same sound, except for the fact that one of them is voiceless and the other one is voiced. The same thing for this pair here. Fricative. So you have, think of two articulators like touching each other continuously and air can still escape. So you have a labiodental fricative, fa, va. You have a dental fricative, th as in think, and the as in this, that, right? And then you also have sa, za. If you try to make all these sounds in a sequence, you will see how your tongue slides. It starts in the front part of your mouth and it slides, it rolls back forwards. Like you go from labiodental to dental to alveolar to post-alveolar. Sha as in shower. Ja as in illusion. Sha, ja. All right? Sha, ja. And then as I told you, ha is also fricative, okay? And then we'll have what we call affricate sounds. You will have cha and ja. Cha, ja. It looks as if you're doing two sounds at a time. The first sound is this sound here, ta, and then sha, cha, cha, cha. So in affricate sounds, it starts with the plosive sounds, ta, and ends with the fricative sound, sha. Same thing here, plosive sound, ta, and ends with the fricative sound, ja, ja. Cha, ja are affricate, okay? They are a mixture between plosive and fricative, and there are two sounds like this, cha and ja. And then you have the nasal sounds. Basically, what happens is that your velum is down, your soft palate is down, so air escapes through your nasal cavity. We will have ma, which is a bilabial sound. We will have na, which is an alveolar sound. Na. Take a look. Ta, sa, na are all alveolar sounds. What is the difference between them? How the obstruction occurs. One of them is plosive, the other one is fricative, this other one is nasal, okay? And then you have this sound here, just like in words as in sing, singer. Take a look, and g are very similar sounds, except for the fact that this one is nasal and this one is plosive. And then we have some other types of sounds here. We have lateral approximant sounds. What does that mean? Take a look. Larynx, lace. What happens is that you're touching your alveolar ridge with the blade of your tongue, but air still escapes through the side parts of your mouth. So this is what we call lateral approximant, because air is escaping through the lateral part of your mouth. This also happens with this sound here, which is a very typical English sound, just like in car. This is a post-alveolar sound. So the blade of your tongue approaches the post-alveolar region and air is still able to escape. Approximate, right? Approximate sound. This is how the obstruction occurs. It does not touch, it gets closer, right? And then we will have the two semi-vowels that we just talked about. Wa, which is a bilabial sound. So the two articulators involved are the lips, but they do not touch each other. They get closer. So the obstruction is approximate. The manner is approximate. And then you have ya, which is also approximate, right? Because the front part of your tongue will approach your hard palate but not touch it. So these are all the English consonants and they are organized in the simplified version of the IPA. But what you have here is even a more user-friendly version of this. So this is what we're going to be studying now, how the phonemic chart works and how it can help you remember all these consonants here. Let's take a look.